I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Tuesday, January 4th at 6 p.m. Could I have a roll call, please?
Joe Shank, present.
Chad Sexton Duranian, present.
Veronica Cal present. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States
States
of
of
America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. It's also live on Channel 9, and it will be posted on YouTube after the fact. Chairman's additions or deletions. I don't really have anything. Does anybody?
I don't. Nothing.
Ross, Joe, do you have anything
No.
to add?
No, I'm good.
Public comment period. Is there any public comment?
I would like to make an announcement about the town election that's going to be coming up in April, if I could.
I'm sure, Kathy, go ahead.
So the annual town election is April 25th, 2022. Papers will be available next Monday, January 10th. The last day to obtain papers is March 4th, and they must be returned by March 7th with 41 valid signatures. So if you do take out papers, you would want to have around 47 signatures, just in case someone puts down a wrong address, they've moved or whatever. There's an update on the website, the front page, and it tells about the openings and these dates when everything is due by. And that's about it for the election, unless there's any questions. I also have dog licenses are due now, and you should try to get your dog license before March 1st, when the late fee of $10 starts. And if you license your dog before February 1st, we have the #1 tag contest, and the winner will get the #1 tag, as well as a blanket that I make every year. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Kathy,
Yes.
I did not, what was the date, April what? For the
April
election?
25th.
25th, all right, thank you, I apologize, yep,
Yep, no, it's the fourth Monday in April.
all right, thank you.
So it is a Monday. For people that are listening, it's a Monday.
Yes. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. this year.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Todd?
Todd Blanton, Chairman, Townsend Board of Water Commissioners. Just heard some stuff. People are still asking about whether the water is safe to drink or not in regards to the PFAS. The problematic well with PFAS has been shut off since August. If there was a problem, we would have continued to get notices, so the water is considered safe to drink in regards to PFAS and any of the other testing requirements. And I just wanted to kind of have that, kind of continue that message out there right now.
Thanks, Todd. Any questions? All right, any other public comments? I guess the only thing I'll say, I'll make a public comment. We had 2 new employees start yesterday. Melissa Dunnett as our treasurer collector, and Vincent DeSalvo as our grant administrator. Our land use coordinator, Mike Crowley, should be starting on Monday. So if you get a chance to come in town hall, please stop by and welcome them to town. Thank you.
I have a public comment.
Joan.
Savoy, Adams Road, it speaks about this board that you're hiring all these people and people are coming out, and it's so wonderful, and thank you. And also, the one thing that I've noticed that it's a small thing, but it means everything and it says everything is you all got water coolers in the town hall, which is tremendous. It's just a tremendous thing. It's, you know, it's the little things that count. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anything else? It's just about 6:10 and we do have an appointment at 6:10. So is there any comment before we go to our appointment? All right, moving on then. We'd like to welcome Glenn Eaton and Karen Chapman from Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, MRPC, to join us today. We asked them to come and talk to us about the comprehensive economic development strategy that MRCP writes for the region. So I guess at this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Glenn and Karen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Veronica, this is Lance from the planning board. I hate to interrupt, but since this is posted as a joint meeting, do you want me to open the planning board meeting as well?
Is it posted as a joint planning board meeting?
I believe it is on the agenda that I saw, unless it's not.
Yeah, I
Not-
posted for the planning board, yeah.
Oh, it was posted for the planning board as a joint meeting. I didn't realize that. I didn't post it as a joint meeting on the Board of Selectmen. So, yeah.
Thanks.
So this is Lance McNally, and I'd like to open the meeting with the planning board. And for a roll call, Lance McNally is present. And Lori, do you want to announce yourself as well?
Yes, Laura Schifrin present.
And I don't believe there's any other members from the planning board unless they're attending in the audience. If so, please introduce yourself.
There's
Okay.
nobody here.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry for the interruption, Veronica.
That's okay, Lynn. All right, so now I will turn it over to Glenn and Karen. Thank you.
Excuse me, Glenn, would you like to do a screen share with us?
I don't need to do a screen share right now. I may want to. I'll get back to you if so.
Okay,
And
thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Who was that? I see
This is Hartley Fleshaw. I'm the Zoom host. Just let me know if you want to screen share.
Great. Thank you, sir. I'm trying not to put something up, but I may put up one paragraph. We'll see. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate the help. First of all, may I say thank you. You have a busy agenda. We'll be succinct. Thanks to Karen and Brad for chiming in on SEDS and then transportation issues. They're here also. So thanks to my colleagues for being here at the meeting tonight. Also, I want to say that I wish I lived in Townsend because we have dogs and I'd like to compete for that blanket and that #1 slot for that #1 tag, but we live in Templeton. So, oh shucks. Without further ado, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, the Federal Economic Development Administration, under rules, regulations, a public law, I won't go into the detail, published many decades ago. Basically, the SEDS, we call it, the CEDS or the SEDS, is a document that's required by the Federal Economic Development Administration if communities or regions of communities wish to create a regional strategic planning tool, maintain it means update it every 5 years, and include within it strengths and weaknesses of a community and or region, and then identify projects that facilitate economic development. Local projects, we just bluntly call them. There's an appendix at the end of every SEDS document that says, here are the projects that are put forth by cities and towns in either a municipality or a consortium of communities. I keep saying or. A SEDS document can be maintained by one community or more. In the late 90s, communities came together with the Regional Planning Commission, and I was wearing a different hat at the time. But the reality is that the local officials asked the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, MRPC, to create and maintain the SEDS on behalf of the region. For those of you that may not be familiar, the Montechusett region, for the purposes of the Regional Planning Commission's catchment area, I'll draw you a mental map. It's basically from Athol to Ayr. 22 communities are included within that area, 19 towns, 3 cities, and the planned business community of Devens. The SEDS has gone through several changes. I think now might be a good time to say to Hartley, if we can arrange to have me do a screen share, I'll put up a website that I'll refer to and that folks can go to later if they want to learn more from our website. So I will ask Hartley to authorize a screen share for me. And I'm assuming I'll see something that'll pop up eventually. And when that does, then I'll throw up a website. If it happens, it happens.
Glenn, you're the co-host now. I just got a little message on my machine. So as the co-host, you might be able to share if you want to give it a shot.
I'm giving it a shot right now. I just moved my mouse and I saw that. And what I'm going to do is share the screen and say share. And you see the screen with little spaceman's boots in the middle of the screen, hopefully. And what I'll do is I will pull up the website in question. And here is, let's see, let me just find the right one. Overview. I think what we'll do here is go back to this is the screen I really want you folks to see. Hopefully you can see it in the middle of the screen. It says Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or MR SEDS, Montezuma Region SEDS. To the left of the title on our website at mrpc.org are quick links to the most current strategy for 19, the most recent strategy before that, the 14, the 09, and the 08. So we have several there. So if anybody wants to go to quite frankly, if you just Google mrpc.org and then a space and then CEDS, the first hit should be this link right here. So it explains a little bit more about what they are. What I'm going to do is click over here and I'm going to show you the most recent SEDS. This is the document that was completed in 2019. Now, I don't want to move around any really more on this screen because I don't want to get anybody too seasick. But what I will do is click one more item. This is the table of contents for the most current SEDS document, and very slowly, because I don't want anybody to get a problem, you will see, I'll try to put this in the middle and then I'll stop the screen share, but where it says here, plan for progress, vision, goals and objectives, regional resiliency action plan, and then the projects. This is what I just referred to about a minute or two ago, about we go through a process which has to be done no less than every 5 years, but we're on a 4-year cycle. But because of some funding that came to us, actually we're updating the 19 SEDS now in 21 and into 2022. And we'll be submitting a new update. I believe it's this winter or spring. Karen may be closer to that. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay, I'll stop the screen share or somebody can make it stop. I'm not sure how to do that. And if I can get advice, I'd be real happy about that. I'm sharing the screen, stop share. Okay, very good. So Hartley, you have control again. I've probably used up about 10 minutes and I don't want to use up any more. Other the takeaway here is that we are in the process of updating the SEDS. The types of projects for local economic development can be anything you want them to be that meet the needs of your community. Just remember that the purpose of the SEDS planning tool through the federal EDA's eyes is they would like to see projects in there that they would like to fund later if you have need of their money. That's the takeaway. So the EDA doesn't fund everything. Bluntly, the EDA was set up to facilitate economic development, to do brick and mortar projects, to facilitate business park development, industrial park development, and they write big checks for business incubators and projects like that to give you some ideas about what they fund. They do provide some funding for planning also. My final comment is that we receive a EDA annual planning grant for about $70,000. It's about, I don't know, 3 to 5% of our total budget probably for the staff. And we basically provide ED planning services. So you could literally call any day and talk to Karen and myself about economic development planning projects. And we could give you some technical assistance over the phone. It's what we're paid to do. and we're paid mostly to maintain the sets. I only have about 9 minutes left or 8, and I'd really like to yield back that time to Q&A if I may. I think Veronica. I'm not sure.
Sure, we can go to questions and answers. So I guess what I'd like to do then is go first to the Board of Selectmen, see if they have anything, and then to the Planning Board for questions, and after that, open it to the community. We are limited in time because we do have a 6:30 presentation. So I'll start with the Board of Selectmen. So Chaz or Joe, if either of you have questions.
I'm good.
I do not.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
My only question for you, I do have one. Beth and I had attended the meeting a few weeks ago before Christmas on the update to the SPEDS. And we were looking at what is in this most recent document for Townsend. And one question we had is, how specific does it need to be? Do we need to define a project? What is in there for Townsend right now is very general. And it's really not anything that someone would pick up and say, oh yes, we've done this. How specific do you need it to be? When we looked at Leominster, they have definitely specific projects, but we don't, not yet anyway. So that's my question.
So I'll answer the question two ways. You may have already answered your question. One way is that if we don't have a project, we meaning you, probably can't provide a lot of specificity, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's probably nothing wrong with the narrative that's in the document, because what you've said is you've made a statement from your community. We know we want to do something to be determined. That's okay. When you figure out what the TBD is, what the to be determined, and I'm just going to throw something out there that's, some sort of business park development, and we need a feasibility study for a business park or something like that, that may or may not apply to you. I just need to grapple onto something. If you have some specificity around the project and you want to say, okay, well, we might not know where it is yet, but we have this industrial zone over here. We're thinking about putting something over there. So we know we need some feasibility, maybe some market feasibility, and we need maybe some sketches, some planning, maybe some cost estimating. So I guess once a project starts to develop, you can feel free to document that in 3 to 5 or 3 to 10 sentences. You don't need to write a new chapter to the American Constitution. It's okay. You can keep it brief. You can keep it focused. You might have downtown redevelopment plans, whatever. So I don't want to lead the projects too many examples, but once you have something, the first thing to do is just give us a call. And as we did with Fitchburg, we responded 6 or 8 weeks ago, I think, maybe. Yeah, it's been a couple months. Fitchburg called and they said, look, between the city and the Fitchburg State University, we want to get something in the SEDS, meaning add another local project for the Fitchburg theater redevelopment project. So they had something specific that they needed to get into the SEDS, into the list of projects that probably hasn't been in the SEDS yet. But, the Fitchburg redevelopment, theater redevelopment project is only now kind of starting to coalesce between the university and the city. So now they have something with greater specificity. They asked for that project to be included in the SEDS. We held a meeting. That's the meeting, I think, Veronica, yes, that you said you attended with Beth. And now we're in the process this month of sending documentation down to Philadelphia, the EDA Region 1 office, to say, okay, this project needs to be inserted in the SEDS. So don't worry if you don't have a lot of specificity yet. You'll need it later if you just want to make sure, A, you're documenting something, and B, you may be able to get funding from the EDA. But if not, here's the real takeaway. Every agency, whether you go get bonding for something or grant money, everybody wants to know if your project is in a local or a regional planning document. So when you have specificity that is created and coalesces around a project, that's when you want to start documenting for the appropriate plans, SEDS, and probably others. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you. Planning board, so Lance, if you want to.
Lori, do you have any comments?
Only that I would hope that we would be part of, we would make an application and be part of trying to get something done in the future as hopefully part of our master plan too.
Okay, I don't have any further comments, Veronica.
What about Beth? Does Beth have anything to add?
No, thank you. I had the same question you did. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to, before I turn it over to the community, just real quickly, the EDA projects, business parks, industrial parks, what about mixed use developments? Would they go in here as well? Would these grant funds be possible to be used for that?
If you're defining mixed use as including a housing component, then the housing component is not eligible. And it's really a three-part answer. Housing is not eligible at all. Before the pandemic and before the CARES Act and before all of the funding that's been coming our way, EDA was only about brick and mortar for manufacturing jobs, and then manufacturing jobs, and then manufacturing jobs. Because of CARES and other acts that have come down, they're broadening that a little bit to other non-manufacturing jobs, service jobs and so on. They're trying to help the economy get stimulated again. So there's a lot more money. There are more programming. There's more flexibility now. But pre-pandemic, it's about brick and mortar for business, industrial parks, quite frankly, and incubators typically are the big projects that they've done. And in our region, please think of the Southgate Industrial Park in Leominster. That was EDA funded, pipe in the ground stuff. The 231 Industrial Park in Fitchburg, probably the Montechusett Industrial Park in Fitchburg. Those are the, and Devon's. I mean, they've spent a lot of money, EDA spent a lot of money in Devon's on brick and mortar pipes and roads.
Okay, I see that Kim has her hand up. So Kim, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. You actually did ask one of the questions I was going to ask, because it just seemed like a great opportunity for some things, but unfortunately that's out of it. So great to hear this information, Glenn. My thought is, or question is, how might we tie this into some of the things that came out in the master plan? Our master plan is done. I'm fighting a little bit with the maps. They keep crashing our document, but hopefully that will get resolved. But in the master plan, there's a lot of different things that the community wanted. Specific businesses, for example. Would the funding, I'll ask a few parts of this, would the funding be available to do an assessment of which buildings and structures would support those businesses? And the second one is feasibility on the incubator. Can you bring forward a specific building for that, or do they want it more broad? Then the third part is, how visionary would they be? It sounds like there's more flexibility now than before. I see Bill Wright out on there, but one of our things is the rail trail. And is there money in there to actually purchase something to develop as a venue, for example, a boat ramp that could then tie into the rail trail, tie into a historic property and create jobs? So I know I just asked you lots, so really anxious to hear what is or is not permissible. Okay, so I'm going to try to answer those 4 questions, Kim. Thanks a lot in about 40 seconds. Sorry. That's okay. It's okay, young lady. It's not a problem. The thematic response I have is that the last 2 projects with boat ramp and rail trail, my first bullet is, I think you can find funding for all of those projects from state and federal resources, but not all of them would be funded from EDA. I would discount the boat ramp. I would discount the rail trail. How creative and how visionary federal bureaucrats are, I'm not going to answer that on a recorded meeting. But I think what we have to do is we always have to look at requests for proposals very closely. We always have to look to see what they fund specifically and what they don't. So on your first 2 questions, on finding a building, and I think the other one, hopefully my response will answer both, that I am aware of a collaborative workspace in the Orange Athol area, and they were told by EDA that they can obtain funding as long as they have a market and feasibility study done to get future money. So the bottom line is EDA likes incubators. So that means that it's eligible under one of their programs.
they like industrial parks, that's eligible under one of the programs called Public Works Improvement Program, or PWIP or PWIP. It's a matter of finding the right acronym and the right program that fits with your project. So if you need some research, I think definitely, I'm at second 45. I think this is really good lunch conversation or pizza or a salad or something or online to say, okay, what are you really thinking? And if there's the planning board or a committee or a board of selectmen or a group or one person, I think Karen and I would want to sit down and try to tease out all those ideas and lead you to the right direction. There might be some information referral on some of the projects, and maybe it's EDA and maybe it's mass development on some others, but it's a matter of picking apart, I think, what you're thinking about to identify the appropriate sources for study, pre-study or study funding to do the studies for like market feasibility, and then find a building where it's appropriate to do something like an incubator. In a volunteer world, I'm very involved with an incubator in Gardner, so I'm having a lot of these same discussions in my own head right now. Happy to get back to you on all of this. For anybody in the room, please call us.
Thank you for both, regular town reasons, spin-off of master plan, and from the Townsend Business Association. I'd love to take you up on that conversation. And Veronica, I don't know how that would work with like including selectmen and planning board, but I'd love to kind of get something launched here. Thank you very much, both of you.
Yeah. Thank you, Glenn and Karen. And we'll be talking soon, I hope. So I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is also MRPC. This is the walkability and bikeability study that was done for the town through the UPW program. And so we have Brad Harris from MRPC with us. So welcome, Brad, and I'm going to turn this over to you at this point.
Okay, thank you. I have a slideshow or plus slide presentation. I don't know if you guys have it there and I'm going to run it there, or if you want me to share my screen and run it from my computer.
Dave, how are we going to do it? If you could share your screen, that would be good, Brad.
Okay.
So hopefully Hartley will set you up as the co-host here in just 1 second.
All right.
Looking for Hartley. I didn't see him in on the screen. Do you have share screen down at the bottom there, Brad?
Yeah, let me see if I can share the appropriate thing. Do you see my desktop?
Yep.
All right. How about?
Yep, we can see it.
Walkability study for Townsend, first slide. Yep. Okay. So basically this started when the town responded to a request we had sent out a couple of years ago, actually, 2020 actually, we were soliciting input for transportation planning tasks for our FY fiscal year 2021 Unified Planning Work Program. That planning work program is a task and budget tool that outlines transportation planning activities we plan to undertake in the coming fiscal year, federal fiscal year. So at that time, the town responded and they sought a walkability study for their town center and school shopping area. So in the process, we was four or five step process. To begin with, we first established what the study area would needed to be for the town. So we met with members of the community and got some feedback from the town, and they selected and defined two basic areas: the town center and then the school senior center down off of 119. All of this parallels 119. And also as part of that study area development, we look to identify points of interest and items and attractions within the study area. So you can see all these labeled greens were identified as points of interest for the walkability study area. So then we moved on to the next step of the process, which is conducting a walking audit. This was again called a walking audit of both these study areas. This was scheduled in May of 2021 last year, and with the assistance of the town planner Beth Faxon, we were able to get a very good turnout for the walking audit. And as you can imagine, with COVID, It's been a little difficult to get public outreach and public input, but with Beth's assistance, she was able to identify a number of people to be invited to the walking audit, and it was a fairly good turnout, helping us conduct the audit. And this is just a picture of some of the participants out on the audit on May 1st, again, of last year. So while on the audit and the walk, we asked that the people look at certain things and make certain observations as they went about the walk from one study area to the next. Obviously, we asked them to look at things like sidewalks, roadways, crosswalks, trails, gathering spots, trees, benches, parking areas, and attractions, and so forth. This was all noted during the walking audit. So once that was completed, we went to data collection for other parts of the study. And those data collection efforts included traffic volumes, the crash history in towns along the study area. And what we found was that there was a total of 438 accidents over the past 3 years within Townsend, and 170 of those, 8 of those occurred within the study area, 41%. Not too surprising considering 119 in the volumes that the traffic happens there. And also they did a inventory of the road facilities, such as sidewalks, crosswalks, and road signs, and they were identified and mapped also. So from that, and looking at the data collected and doing an analysis of all the information that was gathered, we developed a series of recommendations at the end part of this study for the town to consider. So recommendations were based upon certain infrastructure categories. The first one being sidewalks. We recommended things such as repairing existing sidewalks when needed, continuing the sidewalks along Route 119 from McDonald's to Dunkin' Donuts, add sidewalks and bike lanes, add sidewalk along Highland Street from Brookline Street to the common parking area, and provide and maintain pedestrian lighting. And you can see some of the issues that were identified during the walking audit. You can see you have a series of steps right down to the roadway, which is the crosswalk, ending right into those. You'll see also a lack of ADA facilities, ADA requirements and accessibility options, which can be an issue for the town. The second infrastructure area we looked at was crosswalks. Where can we put additional crosswalks that make sense and can help out the pedestrians throughout? Traffic calming techniques that some of these major crosswalks that could be implemented to help slow traffic down and make them more safer. And advanced warning signs or flashing beacons at some of the high traffic areas. And again, you can see in these photos some of these issues. The yellow paved crosswalk goes right into a curbed sidewalk, curbed area. It's not ADA compliant. There's no transition for wheelchair handicapped people to make the transition from the sidewalk to the crosswalk. And there's also poorly defined areas too. So these are things that should be identified and addressed by the town in future projects. Then it was also look at the roadways. What's going on the roadways? So a recommendation was to conduct a traffic study at the intersection of Highland Street and Brookline Road. Consider bike lanes wherever possible. Consider traffic calming techniques along Route 119, near the schools and town center, and tighten up some of those long curb cuts to reduce possible vehicle and pedestrian conflicts. And what we mean by that is some of the wide openings of the driveways, they should be narrowed down to clearly define the egress and ingress points for those establishments, but you don't have cars just entering and exiting wherever they want. So these are some of the recommendations that came out of the study. Other recommendations included striping, signage in public parking areas. An important one, continue with the Complete Streets efforts. Towns involved in Complete Streets. You have a prioritization plan developed. You're a tier 3 community. So that makes you eligible to seek Complete Street funding for different projects. Off the top of my head, I believe a maximum funding grant is $400,000, but it's a good program. The town, Mass DOT will come in, provide the design expertise and engineering, and will work to implement some of your Complete Street priorities. It says consider establishing, but you are already a member of the Safe Routes to School program. So there is some opportunity for funding of programs under this through the federal and MassDOT process. And then continue to work towards the completion of an Americans with Disabilities Act transition plan. This will help you identify and prioritize, again, areas where you need to improve the ADA accessibility. And these all can be tied together: complete streets, the Safe Routes to School, and the Americans with Disabilities transition plans. All can be tied together and all interlock and all work together in making a community much more walkable and enjoyable for pedestrians and bicyclists. The next area is we identified in the study was called next steps. Is basically, now that you have the final report and you've got these recommendations, what's next for the town to do? At this point, basically, it's up to the town. Take a look at what's been suggested, decide where you want to go with this, what we want to implement. If there are projects or complete street programs you want to projects to apply for, how you prioritize those, what you want to do, is up to the town to decide. You know, where's your major point of emphasis right now and what you want to do next. And this chapter just basically outlines how you get a project developed and implemented and processed through Mass DOT, through the federal aid program, as well as some of the state programs, such as, again, Safe Routes to School and Complete Streets. This process, it seems long, and it can be, depending upon a number of factors, but it all begins with the town identifying a project need. You'll see that I've highlighted these first steps 1, 2, and 3. It used to be that a town would develop a project need form, submit it to Mass DOT, wait upon a reply, and then submit another project initiation form, wait upon a reply, and so on and so forth. But over the last few years, MassDOT has implemented what they call MAP-IT, or their MassDOT project initiation tool. So, and all this information you see on this slide is from MassDOT's website. If you just Google MassDOT MAP-IT, you'll get this information. And basically MAP-IT was developed to initiate new projects in a 3-step process using the intake form. Towns need a GeoDot account to log into MAP-IT and initiate new projects. Each town, I know when they rolled this out a few years ago, was given an account. MAP-IT's also been updated and improved over the last number of years. If you're unsure as to who has your information for your GeoDot account, through the website, you can get in touch with MassDOT and they can give you the information. They could also create a new account for you. But basically, it's done a lot for communities, I think, to help them improve the process. And MAP-IT is going to be used for a lot of other project initiation, other projects and applications for communities, such as for Chapter 90 and so on and so forth. You'll keep adding to the tool as it moves forward. But once you get the information you need, you log into MAP-IT. And the first step is using MAP-IT, you want to know your project need. So you identify your project. It'll give you GIS maps where you can just go and highlight the area, put draw a boundary around, say, the intersection you're looking at doing. And then it's going to ask you to fill out more information. The forms are there. They'll help you just input the data you do know. They'll also draw upon a lot of the GIS databases that MassGIS has. So it'll pull in information on environmental features, historical sections, historical areas, so on and so forth. To pull all that data in for you and fill it in as part of this initiation form. And then you can add as much data as you have, as much information as you have. A lot of the projects you should also have sort of some background as to what the problem is and what the recommendations or what the project you're going to have done is. And that's where some of the studies we do can come in handy. They can provide the background for project development. And what will happen is you get to a point where you've got as much information you can, you'll hit submit. It's going to go to the MassDOT district offices. The district personnel are going to look it over. They're going to probably contact you to discuss some of it. They may want to come out and meet with you, discuss the project further. And then you'll do you may update the information and map it with some additional data from Mass DOT or from other things you get, maybe some price information on costs and so forth. And again, when you reach that point and you've got everything in as you have, you submit, you hit the submit button. It's going to go again to Mass DOT district office. They'll look it over too. And at that point, the ball's in their court. They're going to look at the project and make a recommendation to the project review committee, or the PRC. That's the group that meets 4 times a year, review the project request, and they decide if it's federal aid eligible or state aid eligible and so forth. And we'll give you sort of the stamp of approval on your project. At that point, you'll get a letter back from Mass DOT and PRC committee telling you your project's been approved. They'll give you an official MassDOT project number. And depending upon the funding of it, you'll need to work on either incorporating into the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP, or finish the program requirements of the other funding categories or the state funding categories. It sounds like a lot. Let me just back up 1 second. I'm sorry. This was the process prior, and as I said, the map it takes in these first 3 steps. And it's all online. It's all submitted right there and done electronically. The districts is notified electronically. You're notified when the project's been reviewed and so forth. And then once it comes out of the PRC and you've been approved, then you move into what we have labeled here as step 4, which is environmental design, right-of-way work, and so forth. Typically, MassDOT's going to ask the town to fund the design. At this point, you're going to look for an RFP to hire a design consultant. We'll then work on developing the plans and so forth. They'll work with they'll have to make submittals to Mass DOT at various stages, 25% design, 50%, 75, 100%. But this all occurs after you've been approved for a project and it appears on the federal funding listings. And this is all works its way through the TIP process also. This is where it can take a lot of time because obviously the town's got to make a commitment to funding the design. You've got to get the design consultant on board and you've got to keep the process moving forward as the design develops. MassDOT will work with you throughout the process. They're willing to work with you to discuss right-of-way issues, environmental issues, and so forth. The key is to have a good design consultant on board who's familiar with working with Mass DOT and familiar with the process. And once you get to what's called 100% design and plan specs and expenditures, PS&E, that's when MassDOT will look to put it out to bid for construction. So it sounds like a lot. I've kind of rushed through it and given you a top level approach, but it can be done. A lot of communities get their project submittal and approved, but it can take time. My takeaway for this, for the community, I think, is for you to prioritize what you plan on doing or what you'd like to do. Discuss it with MassDOT and the district office. They are more than willing to meet with you and talk to the town about what your priorities are, what the projects are. They can give you some estimates on cost based upon their knowledge. But it's good to, at the beginning, to talk to someone at the district office. And we are also more than willing to meet with you at the same time and to help facilitate that meeting and to discuss the options with you. And once you get your priorities set and you know what you're looking to do, then you begin the map it process of seeking funding for a project, a road project, and so forth. And as you develop, say you're looking at a development project on Route 119, that's when you would also look at, your design consultant would look at your complete streets prioritization plan, safe routes to school, ADA transition, incorporate those things into the design, because while they're out there doing the construction, you should be able to upgrade your sidewalks, get the ADA requirements in, identify bike lanes, improve curb cuts, improve curbing, and so forth. So that's something to have is to remember those other plans, your complete streets, your safe routes to school and so forth, that they should be worked into your design. When you start looking at after you've got your project approval and looking to eventually go out to construction and get the project built. So that's my brief presentation on the walkability study. Sherry Bean, who couldn't be here tonight, was the principal planner on this project, and she's worked with the Mass DOT on their safe route to school and the complete street programs. So if you do have questions about that, feel free to give her or myself a call, and we can talk to you about it and move forward.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brad. Are you willing to take some questions from us? At this
Sure.
point?
Let me stop sharing the screen so you guys can have control. Okay.
Okay. I guess we'll kind of do it the same way. We'll Board of Selectmen and then the planning board and then the public. So Chaz or Joe, any questions?
No, I'm good, Madam Chair.
I just want to make a comment. Brad, thank you so much for helping us out with this. It was a fun day when we did the walking study. I thought that was a good turnout. And it's nice to see that, you know, what our initial work was turned into something like this. I also want to point out to the planning board how important the Safe Routes to School program is for projects that the town is doing much like this. And this is, Carol, part of the reason why I want to make sure that we're active and stay active with Safe Routes to Schools, because there's a lot of extra work that we can add on to some of the things that we want to plan for the future. That's
so my question goes kind of with that. I mean, we did get a shared streets and spaces grant that deals with signage and bike lanes in parts of town, but it would be nice to have sidewalks all the way down 119, ADA accessible sidewalks. We worked with a planner for Safe Routes to School that was provided through that program. And she gave us a lot of good ideas for different intersections here in the center of town. And I guess my question is, for something to be on the tip, if it just deals with crosswalks and curb cuts and access to gas stations, for example, and sidewalks, is that a project that's tip eligible? If it goes from here all the way down to the high school, from the center of town down to the high school?
The TIP is a document that lists only federal aid projects. So if you're not receiving any federal funds for the project, then it doesn't need to appear in the TIP. It doesn't have to compete with some of the other federal aid target projects in our region. But if it does use federal aid, if say you're doing a improvement to Route 119 and you're using federal funds for, you know, surface transportation program or whatever the category is, then it needs to appear in the TIP. But you'll know that when you develop the project, and you go into map it and you start developing the project, and you set your project limits. So if you're looking at 119 and you want to expand it or improve it or do something to it, you know, that you can scope that all out in the project initiation form, what you'd like to do. I know in the past, Mass DOT hasn't been too thrilled with installing sidewalks because of the cost, but they are now required to do a complete streets analysis of any project when they're out there. So they have to incorporate those complete street concepts into their designs. Your consultant will have to also do that too. So it has to be considered. So if you're looking at 119, now they've got to consider bike lanes and sidewalks and so forth in the design for any improvements on 119. So you can get sections of the road, you know, improved and get those incorporated into the project. That's why I say, you know, some of these projects like complete streets will do sidewalks themselves, and you can just focus on that. So if you can bring 2 or 3 different programs together, you can, you know, get a large stretch of the road reconstructed and redone to meet your needs and do what you intend on doing. I don't know how much the cost would be to do sidewalks from town center down to the school area. It'd be pretty expensive, I would think, but it's always possible. And again, I think my first step would be to say it would be good to have a meeting with MassDOT, the district office, talk to them and get their ideas and their feedback. They may have some plans already to do some resurfacing and repairs on 119. If you get them up to talk to you, they may be able to tell you what their thoughts are on the road and what needs to be done. And those new aspects, those new things like sidewalks and bike lanes and so can be worked into those designs.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Planning board, questions, Lance? I'll turn it over to you.
I'm good. Beth, do you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
No, I'd just like to thank the staff at MRPC for completing this study. It was excellent.
And I'd like to second that as well. Anything from Carol or Lori?
I would make the same comment. I'm so thrilled about it, really. Thank you.
Sherry wanted me to mention the assistance she got from Beth and her help in getting the walking audit put together and contacting people, and really in the face of COVID, getting good turnout and good participation in that audit, which was key to getting a lot of the recommendations put together.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Veronica, I noticed that Bill has had his hand up.
So let's go to Bill.
Thanks, Veronica and Lance. So Brad, I had one question. Can you think of an example of a local walkability project, a project on the tip that's focused on walkability, that's actually gone through this entire tip or map it process and has succeeded? I always like to follow examples, so.
Yeah. There's been a lot of improvements done through complete streets that address walkability. There hasn't been in particular one specific project that I'm aware of. But the complete streets design is incorporated into everything now. Just trying to think at the top of my head, some of the locations where they've done improvements to a roadway, and then you can see the adding the sidewalks and the bike lanes. What I can tell you about that is on the drawing board is in Harvard. It's Air Road from 110 towards the Rotary. Their designs have sidewalk and bikeways added to it. And they're actually not on the street bikeways. They're set back off of the roadway. In years past, if you were redoing that road, Route 110, it would simply, MassDOT would look simply, curb to curb. We're going to stay within this right of way, and we're doing that. We're not going outside of it. But with the complete streets concepts that are being added in, it's expanded to add new sidewalks, new bike lanes, some improvements to intersections where I believe their preferred alternative is going to be a roundabout, a little smaller roundabout maybe. It's changed a couple of times, but if you ever get a chance to see that design, you'll see a lot of the improvements that are there that typically, again, weren't there before. And I don't know if there's plans on one of their websites or not on the town website, but I think if you look at the town website, just look for Air Road project. I think they've got some information up on that. It's not built, but it does incorporate a lot of those concepts that you see there. And again, typically through the TIP process, you're looking at roads and bridges, and those complete street aspects such as sidewalks are added on to the design. So as these new projects go out the door, you'll see more and more improvements like that.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the community? Well, I don't see any other hands, So I'm gonna, at this point, say thank you very much, Brad. Please thank Sherry for us too. It was great working with you, and we'll go forward with this study for our next steps.
Great. Like I said before too, if you have any questions, let us know. And if you want us to be part of the discussion with the district and Mass DOT, just let us know. We're more than happy to come back out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, going back to the agenda then. We are at 3.1 on reappointment of officials and appointments and reappointments of officials. So,
Madam Chair,
yes,
you're going to do 1.6, review and approve the minutes for
I
11:8.
was so focused on it being 6:10. Let me go back to that. Review and approve the meeting minutes for 11/8/2021. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes for 11/8/2021.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I wasn't present, so I'll recuse myself.
All right, I will second the motion. Is there any discussion?
Don't have any.
All right, then, all those in favor of approving the minutes of November 8th, 2021? Please say aye.
Chad Sexton-Duranian and I.
Joe Shank, recused.
And Veronica Kell, yes. All right. Thank you, Joe. Moving to 3.1, reappointment of members to the audit committee. The finance committee would like us to wait until after their next meeting to reappoint a member. So is there a motion to reappoint me as the Board of Selectmen representative and David Chanel as the community representative to the audit committee?
I move that we reappoint to the audit committee for a one-year term through December 30th, 2020. David Chanel, a registered voter, and Veronica Kell, representative for the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Roll
Joe
call
Shank,
vote.
yes. Joe Shank, yes.
Chad Sexton-Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kell, yes. And we'll move the finance committee nomination to January 18th. 3.2, this is to reappoint the interim town administrator. By charter, it's required that an interim be reappointed after, I believe it's 6 months. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So this is just a reappointment. Is there a motion?
Do we have an end date or? how does that work?
We do have it in the contract.
In the contract, it says to June 1st or to the new person's up, whichever comes first. The charter, section 4.4 says appointments for 6 months. However, the select board may vote to extend it for 3 months.
So we can just,
So we could be close to that 3-month period near end of May or June, but cross that bridge when we get to it.
so should we just,
Make a motion
To-
to reaffirm the appointment or ratify the appointment of Ross Perry as the interim town administrator.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Joe Shank,
Well,
yes.
Chad Sexton-Duranian, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
You stuck with us again.
I will just say that, thank you for the privilege to continue to work for Townsend. It has been, I won't say fun, but it has been it's been a challenge, and I enjoy being here.
A learning experience. Thank you, Ross.
Thanks, Ross. Really appreciate the vote of confidence.
Well, it's working for the three of you that have made this a workable arrangement, I can assure you.
Well, thank you for the vote of confidence.
I'll take the compliments.
Okay, moving on to 3.3. Is there a motion to appoint Donna Howard to the 14-hour per week position of outreach coordinator at the senior center, effective immediately? Go ahead.
I move to appoint Donna Howard to the 14-hour-a-week position of outreach coordinator at the senior center, effective immediately.
Is there a second?
Second,
And as she is, comment, as she's already an employee of the senior center, there's no need for our usual query check and pre-employment physical, because she is already actively working. Any other discussion?
no,
All right, all those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Cinderanian, yes.
And Veronica Cal, yes. All right, moving on to section 4, meeting business. Discussion of the mandatory referral for 478 Main Street. Do you want me to read this, or what would you like me to do? This is for the applicant is Candace Haggerstrom, 478 Main Street, Assessors Map 11, Block 1, Lot 2, Lot 0, sorry. The hearing for this is January 12th with the ZBA. In accordance with MGL Chapter 40A and the Townsend Zoning Bylaw, the Townsend Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a remote access virtual public hearing Wednesday, January 12th on the application for a special permit under zoning bylaw, Chapter 145, 26B, residential A and B special permit, and or appeal of the building commissioner's determination under zoning bylaw 140. The applicant and property owner proposes to construct and operate a dog grooming business in residence in the existing single-family home. 478. And we, as the Board of Selectmen, this is a regular comment.
Still having?
Do you have any comment?
No, it's already been through the building department, so it's moved forward to go for special permit and let the hearing be heard.
I have a couple of concerns on this. Number one is the construction has already been done before it was asked for a special permit, which I have issues with. There was also some structural that was changed on this particular property in a historic district. And I do believe that the Historic District Commission has been notified in regards to that. I guess I have full faith in the planning board and the zoning board in regards to what they want to do, but I would like to be able to see that we are keeping somehow, these changes are happening and then people are coming in for their special applications. And I think that's kind of backwards to what the process really should be. So maybe we need to look at a way in which we need to get these permits done before any construction is done. So
I
don't know
believe they're not supposed to do any construction, as far as I knew, Chaz, until they do have a permit. So shame on them if they did, and if they put money into it, they get denied, that's their fault.
My understanding is actually they didn't build anything, they repaired things. So what you saw was repair work versus new construction. And the repair work was, I think I was told, properly permitted and noticed going on. It was just that it may have appeared that they were redoing the building when they weren't going that far. They were doing repair.
Well, even if you do a repair at a certain extent, you do have to get a permit. And if I'm looking at these pictures correct, looked like they had a little lean-to that had a door opening, and now they put windows and a door in. So I would only think that the building inspector would be involved in permitting that before any of that was even done.
Yeah, I believe he was. So,
That's fine. If he was permitted and he did it, that's good then. Persons moves on.
I think they've been scrutinized by everybody except for the ZBA, and that's coming up on the 12th.
Yeah, I'm good with it. If they've got the permits, move forward. We need business in town.
We also need to protect our historic districts.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Madam Chair,
Do you want to identify yourself first? Go ahead.
Joan Savoy, Adams Road, sorry, thank you. Do neighbors have to be notified for a change of use or a new business going in like that?
I don't know that there's a notification.
You have to check the ZBA rules, or the planning board rules to see what the notification process is. This may not have risen to the level of triggering that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave?
Yeah, Dave Funnyoli, I'm a member of the ZBA, associate member. I believe since it's a hearing, appropriate notices were sent out to abutters.
For the hearing, yeah.
Yes. But not prior to that hearing.
All right. So that, I guess that would take care of the change of use question. All right, so what do we want to put down here on the referral? No comment doesn't seem appropriate.
No objections?
I think my opinion, we let it go in front of the zoning board of appeals. But I feel that we just want to make sure, as Chaz stated, that we make sure we follow the bylaws and protect our historic district and all the rules are followed.
So that's a more of an in general statement than a statement to this, correct? So in general, the Board of Selectmen support
the zoning board in this matter. The zoning board's decision in this matter.
So I'm going to say, in general, the Board of Selectmen, maybe I'll just say the Board of Selectmen support the zoning board's decision in this matter.
Yep. I'll go with that. I'm good with that.
Yeah. And then it's corrected.
I see Kim Craven has her hand up.
Thanks, Joe. I meant to lower it. Dave already answered it. We were noticed, neighbors were noticed of the hearing.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
All right. So I'm just gonna sign this for the Board of Selectmen. All I wrote under comments is the Board of Selectmen supports the CBA this matter.
Okay.
And I'm gonna sign it. You want to pass that down to Dennis, I guess. So give it to Misty tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Moving on to 4.2. Discuss the job description for the webmaster and vote to post the position. So at annual town meeting, we had one of the positions that we had added was someone to maintain our website. And this is a pretty much stipended position. I went through and looked at the stipend. It was 6,000 annually, and I tried to put it on the grade and step scale. So salary for this position, it's a grade C, step 1 position at $17.88 per hour. And it's budgeted for 5 to 7 hours a week for a maximum of $6,000 annually. It's part-time and can be performed remotely after an initial in-house period to become familiar with the organization of the town. So this responsibilities, the webmaster reports to the Board of Selectmen through the town administrator and is responsible for maintaining the Town of Townsend website, including seeing that all pages are kept up to date, and for maintaining web pages that do not have a supporting staff member designated as the owner of the web page. For example, the Finance Committee, the Capital Planning Committee, the Energy Committee. There are some boards and committees that don't have an associated administrator to do things like this. Like the Conservation Commission has an administrative assistant who can update the web page, but there are a lot of boards and committees that don't have that. And so the webmaster will work with the town employees who are tasked with updating their respective pages, but also take it upon him or herself to do the pages that don't have a person associated with. The webmaster will also be responsible for posting news and announcements as requested by town staff. I know I haven't gotten the town projects updated yet. I'm working on it, but I'm not there yet. Creating new web pages as required. For, say there's a new committee, the one that comes to my mind is dog park, which is not necessarily a new committee, but that's a committee that was a citizen request, and they don't really have anybody to keep the town up to date on what they're doing. And also for making suggestions for website updates. So that's the job. And so I need a motion to post. There's also a job description. I used the Collins format to come up with a job description. And I also got online and looked at what other web administrators or webmasters for other towns postings for them. And that's where I came up with this. So.
Good job.
Thoughts on this? Are we good with this? Ross, anything that we should add or subtract or change?
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right. So,
I move that we instruct the Board of Selectmen chair to post the webmaster position.
Second.
okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kell, yes. Thank you. I will post that.
One less thing that we don't have to do.
Well, we have to hire someone first, so we're doing it until then.
Yeah.
All right. Review and vote for the 2022 seasonal population increase for ABCC requirement. So the population increase is 0 seasonal population. So we just need to vote on that. So is there a motion?
I move that we vote for the 2022 seasonal population increase of 0 per ABCC requirement.
Is there
I'll
a
second that. I'll second that.
There's a lot of math involved in that one, Joe.
That was tough. How many people did we get an increase on?
0.
Oh, I can figure that out.
All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Duranian, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes. All right, this next one, Chaz, this one's for you. Announce or acknowledge the receipt of the OTSS Municipal Cybersecurity Awareness Training Grant.
Did you,
So all I got was what you had
okay,
emailed me.
I saw this and I'm like,
Yeah,
did they send in that we got
I
it?
put this with wishful thinking.
Okay, well, I can explain to everybody what this is. I had submitted a grant request for the EOTSS. It's a municipal cybersecurity awareness training that the state will come into the town. They will do training once a month for the 12 months. It's really for looking at cyber attacks, phishing attacks. They have simulations that they will go through with the employees so that they can see what a phishing is, you know, what a hacking attempt is, and they have examples. This is something that the state has put together over the past couple of years. It's kind of morphed into this particular program. It's pointing in the direction that we'll probably get it. It's going to start out, Russ, just so you know, as a virtual the first few months of the year, and then they're going to be probably coming at some point to do an assessment on, you know, location and what the job functions of different people are, so that they can target certain cybersecurity areas for them. But I'm going to keep the positive and say let's hope we get it. I'm pretty positive we will.
Okay.
All right.
We did receive the acknowledgement of the application.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if they would announce that today.
I was hoping they would, but they.
All right. Moving on then. Discussion of the payment of the Comcast bill for the Benton Pond build out. All right, so the bill was in the packet and I added some of the discussion that went on. This work happened in the spring, or was completed in the spring of 2020, not long after the COVID closing of things. And it did provide the people out Benton Pond Road with the ability to get cable access through Comcast, which that area of town did not have. And that was especially important for kids who were having to go to school remotely. So in any event, everything is there. Why this didn't get submitted for CARES Act, I'm not sure. I did talk to Jennifer Thompson. It is too late for it to go into CARES Act. Of course, that closed October 29th, I guess. And it is not an allowable expense under ARPA funding because of the dates. Anything that's ARPA funded had to take place from March 2021, when those funds were signed into law, and going forward. So this is going backwards. So as a town, we have to figure out how we're paying for that.
So, Madam Chair, so did I hear you right that this paperwork should have went in prior to us getting this, and we could have had it done under the CARES Act?
Could have gone under CARES, and I suppose if I had been on the ball, I could have given this to Jennifer, but I wasn't on the ball with this. So here we have it. The bill is for $94,014.99. And we do have, there's an ATM article, which I meant to write down the number of, and I didn't, but it was in the expense report, and it's under the BOS section, that has $15,000 in it, which could go towards this, which is good. That means that we have $80,000 to be paid. So I guess I would recommend that we talk to Comcast and we pay the $15,000 that we have to them to get this down a little bit lower. And then because it's a bill from a prior fiscal year, I think we have to put it on the town meeting warrant for annual town meeting. That's what I see. I don't know what anybody else sees. So, Ross, are there insights?
I think your two suggestions are right. Pay the 15K because we've got it. Then we talk to Comcast. Worst cases, shows up as an article in the spring, and we'll see if we can find.
We could go
So-
through all the unspent articles and see if we can reposition funds. There are some, I mean, we're looking at 500 here, 1,000 there.
Well, I review all the articles this afternoon, and I'm gonna put them in a list as something that we would research each one to see if they are actually available,
Okay,
and then have a warrant article to recapture those. Initially, I was gonna put that, any recaptured money back into the capital fund, but it may be appropriate to use it to pay the Comcast bill. We can cross that bridge when we get to it.
okay, all right.
All right, I'm good with that.
All right, so we'll just turn this over to you, Ross. Is that okay? For you to get that first payment, talk to Comcast first, I think. I did have, I think I CC'd you on my emails. And see if we can do that. And if they're willing to go forward with that. I don't know that there's any other way to do it right now. All right, so we're all good with that then?
I'm not
Yep,
good
I'm
with
good.
it.
I mean,
That's what we
well,
have to
good with
do.
the means
I'm-
going forward.
Yes,
I'm also gonna ask our new grant administrator if he can look around for a grant that might cover it. I mean, this may be tough because it was so far back, but it's certainly worth looking.
there is also, if you could, Russ, to look into, there is some funding that I have been talking with the accountant about. That is still, there's 2 accounts that have not been spent. And the accountant knows which ones I'm talking about, so if you can talk with her about those. I don't know if that would fit into that as well.
These are separate from old warrant articles?
Yep.
2 accounts.
Yeah, one of them I think is an old CBDG or something. Money was set aside for something. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But we might be able to at least
Well,
recoup
if
some.
they were accounts, they would, I would think, would zero out at the end of the year, unless they were special warrant
I
articles.
think they are. So talk with her, because we had a conversation about that a couple of months back.
All right, I'm gonna move on to 4.6, approving the holiday observance schedule for 2022. Just looking at it's always funky, my formatting, when I do pages to Word. And there looks like there's something funny there under dates. I'm not sure what that is.
Well,
but,
there's a couple, the date celebrated, the word celebrated got lost in one line. President's Day shows up as birthday President's Day.
Say that again?
The third holiday on February 21st.
What does it say?
In my version, it says birthday President's Day.
Did everybody get that?
I
So-
just got President's Day on mine, but there is something looked like it was cut off.
Something funky above it.
Well, it might be Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. Would that be where the
Yeah,
birthday
that's-
should go?
yeah.
Oh, I
it's
bet that's
underneath
what
it.
it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. Okay,
And then down the bottom, under Veterans Day, ahead of Thanksgiving Day, at least one of the union contracts has half day before Thanksgiving Day.
well, that is true, but that's the union contract.
Okay, so I wasn't sure whether you wanted to put in, based upon certain union contracts or something or not. And if we do that, the same would be for, some of them have the day after Thanksgiving Day, and some of them have a half day before Christmas. Everybody, I think it's at least the clerical union, I'm not sure about all the others.
Okay, so what I did is I pulled out the personnel policies and procedures and I matched this up to that. And I said, okay, it's okay, we're adding Juneteenth. because that is now a federal holiday as well as a state holiday. So, okay, I'm good with that. So that's in there. But do we really want to address on this? Because all the people don't get all the holidays, which is a little crazy making.
Yes.
You know, half the people have to be here, half the people can leave half day, the other half have to stay. I would like to see that all consistent across the board. It would just be easier that way. That said, these are the holidays that everybody gets. Is what
My thoughts on this is that this is just so boards and committees don't put meetings on these particular dates, and that they have to adjust their posting schedule to accommodate for what the official holiday is. I don't see it as that we would have to put the union stuff in there. I would, you know, unless you want to put a disclaimer or a caveat on the bottom that says, you know, depending upon your union. Or
Well,
whatever.
or you could say, I think all of these extra days I mentioned, the clerical union, I can check the others, so we can say clerical union only. If you want to. I only brought this up because we had this discussion for the Christmas and New Year's because of them both occurring on a Saturday, and the question was, when is people celebrating? They celebrated Friday as Christmas Day, and they celebrated Thursday
half day.
as a half day
Yeah.
on the 23rd instead of the 24th. So
My thing is, what is the purpose of this? Us is to name the holidays that we are.
Okay.
Instead of, this isn't a union thing. Does that make sense? Did I just make
Well,
sense?
that's how I interpreted it too. I looked at the personnel policies and procedures and I said, these are the holidays.
Yeah.
And I matched these up, and only Juneteenth, because that's a new holiday. So that's the only thing that doesn't, you know, as far as the holiday name goes, even though birthday and things got cut off. In any event, yeah, it should say dates celebrated, and it should say Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. But anyway, these are just the holidays themselves.
Yep.
But maybe we want to say these are the holidays, and then we publish another one that's said by union so that we know. This is what everybody gets.
there's nothing wrong with this, the way this is being proposed at all. It's just how this thinking, just to clarify it, when it comes around to those extra half days, when they are going to be observed.
Okay, so then, all right. What I think we should do is vote on these holidays. And then I think also vote to create another calendar that includes the clerical union anomalies. Or whatever you want to call them. And put those in. It's just that everybody doesn't get those. So I wouldn't want to put it on this. So it's almost like the clerical union needs their own calendar.
Okay.
If they're the only ones. I don't know if supervisors union gets those or not.
I'm pretty sure they do not get the half day before Christmas because I remember discussing that
Okay.
ago. So
And then we have to look at anybody who is not in a union, doesn't get the day after Thanksgiving. We have, I mean, there was the craziness about, okay, you could take that day off if you worked Veterans Day. And that's in the personnel policies and procedures, I believe. So if you want the day after Thanksgiving off, and you don't want to take accrued time to do it, you could work Veterans Day if you notify your supervisor. Do we need to put that into?
kind of messy when you start making all the exceptions in there.
It does.
I,
Okay, I think you're right. This is the main holidays.
I just think this is what we're voting on. Just these are the holidays, and then whatever the contracts all say and how they're read out, that's how we enforce them.
Okay. All right, so we'll have this discussion again around October. All right, so is there a motion to accept these days as holidays and to fix my,
Do you want to send me the Word document and we'll fix it?
yes, I will send you the word. I'll put I'm writing notes here as I go.
so Madam Chair, I move that we approve the 2022 holiday observance schedules with the amendments discussed.
Second.
Okay, I have to discuss what are the amendments? Just fix the formatting?
Yeah, fix the formatting.
Formatting. Okay. All right, all those in favor? Joe, are you in favor of the holiday?
Oh, yeah, I didn't hear you. Yes.
Yes, Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kelly, yes. Okay.
And we're not going to bother with a separate calendar for clerical unions and.
It would be good for us to have that so that we knew. But I think as far as boards and committees, well, these are the holidays that they need to know. So maybe we should create one so that we have it, so that we know who's in, who's out, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
All right. All right, moving on to the discussion of the ARPA project. I was hoping to have, I spoke with, this is in the work session 5.0. I spoke with Jennifer Thompson on, when was it? On Wednesday of last week. And we went through projects. And basically what it comes down to is everything that we had voted is okay. She's looking at the addition of the requests for elections, the poll pads and the counters. Have you heard back from her on that at all?
No.
Not yet. Okay, so I had an email exchange with her and I really thought we were gonna know by today. She was gonna list them for me. Again, I haven't checked my email in the past, from about 4:30, 5 o'clock on. So it could have come in. She knew we had the meeting today. But so she's looking at that to make sure that they're allowable. But everything that we talked about was good to go. I told her about our change in the HR position and the community services coordinator. We're going to make the HR position part-time, the community services coordinator full-time. So we discussed that just yesterday and this morning. She has not, I sent her more information about the crosswalks at the harbor. So that one is still kind of on hold. But everything else she said looked fine.
Do we have a decision in regards to the water department, especially with the generators?
Okay, you better talk to me more about that. What we had done for the water department, and I know Dave, Dave and Todd are here for people that can't see them. Dave and Todd are here, and Dave had given me a whole list of things. So we still have funds that can be, what we had put in for water was 200,000 for the water treatment plant. And to fund pre-planning studies engineering. But we hadn't had, when we did this was December 6th, we hadn't had town meeting yet.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look at what was funded at town meeting from the list that you guys provided to us, and then talk more. We're also waiting for the infrastructure bill. That's January 6th, where we'll learn more about that. So Thursday morning, we'll learn more about that, those monies. If we can use those for highway, then we have more money for water. So tell me about the generators.
Well, if you guys want,
Can I do this? We have 5 wells. 2 of them have generators. So one of them is Harbor Trace well, which is off because of PFAS.
Right.
The second well with the generator is close to being over. So if we lose that well, we will have 0 wells with the generator, which means if power goes out, there is no water in town. That's as simple as I can put it.
Can I ask Madam Chair, can I ask a dumb question?
Go for it, Joe. Yes.
Okay, Dave, perfect. The water department's its own identity. It has its own water taker account. And why haven't you updated that with the water funds that you guys have?
Yeah, go ahead. I have a raise for that too.
Part of it, Joe, I'm gonna be honest with you, is the PFAS has taken up most of our funds, as well as some of the other projects that we've had to get done, based on safety. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get done. I don't think anyone ever anticipated losing the main source of water being Harbor Trace to PFAS, until the analysis were done. Why they don't have generators, I can't tell you, to be honest with you, but our budget is tied up with things that have to get done for health and safety now. And we're trying to compensate getting everything else that needs to get done at the same time.
Okay, so.
Okay, Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I finish? All right, so let me ask you. So in the Harbor Trace well, that has a generator there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that well is shut down, not usable. Why don't you take that generator out of there and put it into one that we are using? Because you may never put that well back online, correct?
No, the plan is for a treatment plant. That well will go back online, but you cannot make changes to a system without DEP approval. It's not a mobile generator. The other well sites are not set up electrically, if I'm correct.
It'll also probably cost us more to move it than it would to put it in one.
Okay, thank you, guys.
So can I talk? Or did you have something?
no, go right ahead.
All right, so in what the water department submitted to us for ARPA, and I know I had talked to you, Todd, when I was putting the December 6th stuff together, and so I put the 200,000 in.
Yep.
You didn't, this was number 1 and 2 on the list
Right.
that Dave submitted to us. And we haven't spent all our ARPA funds at all. I mean, we haven't designated.
Earmarked.
We probably have, hold on a minute, I can probably tell you exactly, somewhere around 800,000 easily that has not been allocated. But I wanted to wait and see before we allocated more, what was happening with the infrastructure bill and how those funds were going to trickle down to a little town in Massachusetts with less than 10,000 people. Because we have a bridge to build.
Madam Chair.
As long as she doesn't have one to
in a
sell.
minute. So I'm perfectly willing to do this. I just would like to do it next week, Tuesday.
Just so you know, that 200,000 is not 130, because we already got 70,000.
At town meeting. So,
There you go.
yeah.
So that makes up some of it.
Right.
So my concern with this is with that infrastructure finance bill, the majority of that is gonna go, what I'm assuming, towards the treatment plant and not other things that we need to get done. The need to have that well online, and everything we've done up to this point has taken up a lot of our financial resources. We're at the point now that we need these type of, we need.
This type of assistance.
Yeah, this type thing, this type of assistance beyond what we already are trying to plan for and finance on our own without, without affecting as much as we can the rate structure and things like that, which is gonna impact our residents. This is.
How much money?
The two generators are, what, 120 and 100,
100.
but probably less. It just depends on what we get it bidded out at, Joe.
How much were they? I didn't hear that.
220 combined.
220 combined, 120 for one of them and 100,000 for the other.
Okay, so.
Generators? Okay.
And electric board.
So town meeting, the PFAS engineering. How much, so we allocated 200 for PFAS.
So now it's
engineering.
down to 130.
So you only need 130
Correct.
of what we allocated. So
Correct.
there's 70 there. So if we took that 30, the 30 that you already have, right, no, 70.
Yeah.
Sorry, added 30 and then 120 for the other well, then with 150, so you guys need 150K more, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
How big are these generators, guys? How many kilowatts?
What are they?
They're car size.
You have to have them, that have the horsepower, to run,
A 3-phase motor.
yeah.
Have to do what? You both can't talk at the same time.
It's a 3-phase motor that it has to run. It's a lot of power to power a well that pumps 1 million gallons a day.
Okay.
All right, so that would be another 150.
Joe, I've purchased these type of generators before, and I think their quote of 100 or 120 sounds in the ballpark. That includes wiring the building to accept the generators, site preparation. I don't think it's.
That's what I was getting at, Ross. I wanted just, what is the price for everything? Is that just a
Yeah.
generator?
The whole thing.
All right, okay,
Programming, electrical and everything.
all right, I got you.
So here's my note. So this is from the ARPA thing. Note, before committing further funds for water and roads that support water, the town needs to determine any allocation we are eligible under the federal infrastructure bill. Also for water, the MVP grant program is being supplemented by the state ARPA funding bill. And we should consider applying through this program for water infrastructure designated in the town's MVP plan. So have you guys looked at that? I'm not saying no.
No, I, to be honest with you, I haven't. We have quite a lot of needs as we're finding out, and so that's kind of why we came here for this.
No, not.
It's not considered climate
I
change.
remember I butted heads with our own MVP program. when I
Come.
applied.
Let's see.
That was because we had something different going forward, but we're moving that forward. Or because if you're shut down
Okay.
twice, well.
No.
So we
and
should
that's-
look at that.
I don't think it's gonna be climate related. If you're gonna term redundancy, maybe, but, I'm gonna be honest with you, PFAS has kind of thrown a monkey wrench in any sort of planning that we had prior to this. And it's making us allocate significant resources in planning to fix that up and running so that, let's be honest, if we lose,
Yeah, like down on the table.
which is Brook 2 at any point, and it's not immediate.
Russ was like, you're killing me over there. I can smell the food. I know, I felt terrible.
Someone needs to mute.
Joe, can you mute?
Right, I'm not even talking.
Somebody is in the back.
So what, if we go over 20, it means we go to monthly testing. But if we lose Witchesbrook, that means you have no backup sources if we lose power. That means there's no fire support. This is kind of more of an immediate need than what we would have anticipated. And that's kind of why we brought it forward for ARPA. This is,
This is critical.
Yeah, it's critical. I don't think
That's why I brought it in front of the board tonight, is because after discussions from the water department yesterday, I would rather be safe than sorry.
Okay, so this is our, so, I mean, we certainly have the money. It's not like we don't have the money to do that. I just wanted to wait and see where the infrastructure bill fell out before allocating funds that we're reporting on in April. So what's the time frame for, I understand that today would be better, but what's the time frame for getting those generators in? Like, can we wait?
Well,
until-
I will tell you, if you're talking, we just did our testing again. We went, be honest with you, Witchesbrook, it went from 7.4 to 17.9 for PFAS. 100% on us. It's going up. I predicted it was gonna go up 9 months ago because of shutting down Howard Trace.
Right.
And if it goes over 20, then we go to monthly testing. If it stays over 20 for 3 months, the well will go down and it will be shut off.
Well,
I'm not opposed to giving the funds out. I just want to know that we're fair to all that we're using the monies that are coming in to the best advantage that we can to get everything done that we need to do. Because there's a lot that needs done. And I didn't really give highway anything except for stormwater management from this. I'm hoping for infrastructure for highway, but I don't even know if we're gonna get any money.
If
from
we
that.
allocate money from ARPA to the generators and infrastructure comes through, can we reallocate things?
I think.
Yeah, we can put it in towards it, and that's why I think, you know, I personally think we need to take care of this immediately. That's my opinion.
We could have a blizzard in 2 weeks, which is probably too fast to get the generators,
yeah,
but we could
but
have.
I mean, we still have Witchesbrook. Technically, the way the regulation reads on PFAS is if you violate, you have to do a notice. You don't necessarily have to shut it down. You just have to continue to send out the notice and have a short-term action plan as well as a long-term action plan. We already have the long-term action plan, which is the Harbor Trace Treatment Plant, which Witchesbrook 1 and 2 will also go to. Short-term action plan can be a multitude of different things. As you know, as much as continuing to set out the notices. You don't necessarily lose it so long as it doesn't go up beyond a certain level.
There's more to it than that. If it goes over 20 for 3 months, I was given the option for Howard Trace. One, handing out bottled water to every resident in town, which you could think of how many cases of water that would be, or to give rebates back. That's the options I was given by DEP.
DEP has modified it, to be honest with you. The regulation, there is negotiation with what a short-term action plan is. We have up to 3 months if it continues to rise. But I do think that this needs to be taken care of in the short term. Also, I'm gonna be honest with you, that infrastructure finance bill, a lot of that, you know, if it's gonna go to water, a lot of that should go for the treatment plant. This is not a small ticket item we're talking about. You're talking about something that's gonna be $7 to $10 million potentially.
15.
I was hoping that the infrastructure bill would go to the Greenville Road Bridge. Okay, so.
Well, there's a
we,
specific portion of that infrastructure bill that is specific to PFAS.
Well,
Well, that's a good thing.
the infrastructure bill, $65 million for water, $65 million for sewer. Highway comes out, they're coming out of different funds. Highway comes out of a different fund than water.
Okay,
So they don't butt heads, they don't interfere with each other. They're total separate funds for the infrastructure bill.
all right.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Joe.
did either one of you guys, are these generators even available? I mean, I deal with stuff like this every day, and they're talking stuff like this is 8 months to a year out. Have you guys actually found these generators so we can move forward?
Yes, there are available, but we don't have the funds, and we can't bid it out if you don't have the funds. So it's not 8 months, we could get one in place.
Joe, they have prioritized certain supplies for water and sewer.
Okay, all right, good. All right,
Okay, so if we add 150 to water, for the generators, then, that means we had 996,000 unspent. We spent 352 with what we did in category 4, the infrastructure, part of ARPA. That's, then, 502 spent, which leaves us with 494K.
Yep.
To look at for, for what we put aside for what we budgeted for category 4 infrastructure, which means seeing where things fall out, and where there may be more that we can fund over time. But is this something that we want to decide now, or is this something that we want to wait for?
What's your thoughts?
Wait, meaning January 18th. That's what I mean when I say wait. I'm not saying wait for 10
Right.
years.
I would rather be safe. I mean, we can wait until the 18th of January.
Well, I think the generators are an absolute must.
Yeah.
And if it turns out we get infrastructure funds somewhere else, we could reallocate it, but we'll let them get started. I mean, they've got to get designs, they've got to get specs, they've got to get bids.
Gotta get, yep, to put things in place.
So these funds cover all of that.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to put install generators number 1 and 2. All right, so I'll send this to Jennifer tomorrow. We have to have the projects defined by March, not all projects forever, but the projects that we're thinking of. And we have to report out by the end of April. So.
You mean it has to be up and running by the end of April? or just-
No.
Oh, okay.
It just means that we have the numbers in the accounting office. Is it defined? Is it less than 50%, greater than 50% complete or complete?
Yeah.
And then there's some areas in between.
All
All right, so is there a motion to allocate an additional $150,000 to the water department for the purpose of installing the generator to the Main Street well, $120,000, and installing a generator to the Cross Street well, $30,000 allocated to that, with $70,000 from the water treatment plant allocation going to the Cross Street well
So moved.
generator. Is there a second?
Joe's muted.
Joe has.
second. You just told me to mute.
Are these generators designed so that they will instantaneously fire up? when
Yes.
Power goes
Yeah,
out?
that's part of the program that has to be tied into like SCADA and stuff
Yes.
like that, so yes.
So just so you know, I've, with the budget I've had, I've worked miracles getting Cross Street on, and Main Street is about to go on this spring and with no loans. And so I've tapped out every resource I could possibly have.
Okay, so I will send those changes.
We need to vote, Madam Chair.
Yes, we do. All right, so, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes. Okay, so I need to send this to Jennifer.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
From the Board of Water Commissioners, I really do appreciate your cooperation on this, your understanding of this, and the approval of the appropriation of the funds. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. So we'll make that allocation and I'll get it out to Jennifer. You have the funds in hand. So. Good to go. All right. I'm messing up my paper pile. Sorry, you guys. All right. All right. So let me just look through here real quick. So human resources went. I think everything else was good. She asked me to resend her the things for the Harvard sidewalk.
Okay.
The plans that Bill had sent me.
The walk-in for the TEO.
That was in what I sent to her. I thought I did see TEO support cost $12K one-time set aside. It would be a nonprofit transfer to TEO.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, she didn't blink an eye at that. Unpaid Comcast bill. She told me
She
no.
blinked an eye at that.
She did. We can't do that.
Okay.
Broadband extension was okay. Water treatment plant was okay. And I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna have her deduct 70 from that and move the 100K to cross street.
Perfect.
Together with everything else was good. The online permitting software, she thought that would be okay. We were just setting aside the contact tracing, not doing anything with that at that point. Additional cleaning, she said to start funding that right away. And it's retroactive to October 29th.
Good, like, gets us some money back in this.
Into the general fund, right? We can pull it out of there. I'm just looking, and everything else was good to go. So the meal programs at the senior center.
Good.
Mortgage rental eviction, I think I have on the 18th. I have with the Affordable Housing Trust to get that restarted with CMHA, what we had done last year. For funding of that.
Correct.
Uh,
Did we get the seed money for the trust?
Yes. The 100K,
Yep.
yes.
Good.
But I don't have the official list from Jennifer yet, which I wanted to have today.
Okay.
So I'm saying yes, but we should really have the official. I'm putting my ARPA folder away unless there are other questions. Okay. Projects, number 1 and 2. All right, onward to the town administrator updates and reports.
Thank you. Since the water department seems to be a hot topic tonight, I'll start off with them. They've submitted us a contract with Type and Bond. This is a water rate evaluation project totaling $9,800. It came through with them from the contractor asking the select board to sign that. I've looked at it. I think it's perfectly in order. You can vote to sign that, or you could vote to have me sign it, which you want. I guess it's actually made out with your names on it, so
Does it have our names or your
name.
our name? All right, so is there a motion to sign the Type and Bond water rate survey?
I move that we sign the contract with Take and Bond for a water rate evaluation project for $9,800.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Sexton Duranian, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Thanks to the water department for letting us review that part of the
All right, thank
process.
you.
Sterilite has sent us a form for the town to acknowledge receiving the money that they paid to have the senior center expanded. So they'd like the town to acknowledge that we received, well, not that we received the money, that they paid the contractors directly to have this work done. A sum of $1,288,095.50.
Could you give me that number again?
$1,288,095.50 is what Sterilite reports having paid to contractors to work on the senior center. So this is just for us to acknowledge that they paid those funds. I have talked to the vice president of finance today, and he sent me a small breakdown showing the amounts and the contractors paid. So I think we've done reasonable due diligence to verify that that number is real. I think everybody is very grateful to Sterilite and Mr. Stone for his efforts he's made to support Townsend. And this is just a way for him, I'm sure, to close out his tax reforms. So if it's okay with the board, I'll sign this letter. This one's got my name at the bottom. I said I did some research and feel that the number they're asking us to sign for is accurate.
All right, so is there a motion to have Ross sign the tax acknowledgement for Sterilite for the senior center addition?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kell, yes.
And again, on behalf of the folks and taxpayers in Townsend, thank you to Sterilite and Mr. Stone for this very generous donation.
I will second that.
I've asked the payroll department to issue the retro pay payments to the police department, the officers, based upon the spreadsheet that Jared worked out last summer. The amount is covered in the warrant article that was approved at the Springtown meeting. So the funds are available. I think it's time that we get this off the books and get paid and move on. So that's in works. Under budgets and capital requests, I've actually received some FY23 budgets from departments. Hopefully everybody else will have them in by close to Monday, the 10th, next week. I plan to enter all these into the omnibus budget and create a 5-year capital plan. And I will have budget books that will have the omnibus budget, the 5-year capital plan, tax recap calculations, and all the individual department budgets. I hope to have that ready in a couple of weeks. That'll go to the Finance Committee, Capital Planning, Selectmen, for them to start reviewing them. I expect those sheets will update probably every week as things get fine-tuned and vetted, but I want to start off with a full budget book that will be available for everybody to review. As a bit of a warning, any department or committee that doesn't submit a budget, I'm just going to level fund their numbers from last year until I get a budget. Because budget calculations won't work if I have a whole mess of holes in them, so I'll just put in last year's numbers. Personnel, you mentioned that Melissa Dunnett started in Treasurer Collectors and that Vinnie DeSalvo started in the Grant Administrator's office. I will ask everybody that has received grants, past, present, and anticipated, to send Vinnie a note, because I'd like one of his tasks, and he's got many. Good luck to him to get it done in 15 hours a week.
Right.
But one of his tasks is to tabulate all the grants that this town has received. I think that when the board sees it and the voters see it, will realize that a number of departments and committees have worked really hard to bring in outside funds. And I want to be sure that's part of Vinnie's job, is to tabulate that. So anybody that's getting grant money, including everything we're getting from ARPA and COVID, even little grants, send them to Vinnie so he can start adding them in. This, Veronica, sort of came up in light of your discussion with the audit committee meeting later on this week. If the select board is planning to actually meet in person now as their regular meeting, maybe to avoid mix-ups with Zoom, say the official meeting location is here in the chambers, and Zoom information is provided for the convenience of the public. That way, if the Zoom happens to go down mid-meeting, your valid meeting location is still physically here. And we may have inconvenienced a few people, but we haven't lost the ability to have an open meeting. Decide if the COVID situation changes and you decide to go 100% Zoom, well, that's fine. You take the chances. But if you're gonna meet and physically here, maybe just put on the agenda, official meeting location is here in the chambers.
I am good with that.
With Zoom provided as a.
We've been meeting here since the summer. You know, occasionally we've done an all Zoom meeting, but most of the time we're here. So, and, yeah.
Well, this came to mind when I heard that the Zoom account was messed up. Well, I heard David really worked hard today to fix it.
Yes, he did.
But anyway, that might have having to cancel a couple. Another way to expedite things, such as signing contracts and warrants, would be to see if the board would consider having those signatures put on stamps. We would not use the stamp until we've sent you an email saying, we'd like your permission to sign this warrant. And if you say yes, it'll be stamped. If you don't reply or say no, it's done the old-fashioned way. You come in and sign them. So you would still have your ability to control when your signature is used. You have the ability to review everything ahead of time. But if there's something that you felt comfortable with us stamping, we would stamp. And up to the board where they want
That's not a bad idea.
to go with that.
I have one at home. It's got my credentials on it, but I'm okay with that.
I don't trust you.
No, well, we would get a stamp. I think it would be you to sign a blank sheet of paper 3 or 4 times and.
Right.
And we
It's
can.
not a bad idea, especially if one of us is out of town or 2 of us or whatever.
And we would attach to the signed document your email saying it's okay to use my stamp.
Okay.
So that this
So
won't,
that we could expedite it.
we won't be buying a whole mess of things without you knowing about it.
I'm good with that.
So do we need motions first for making the official meeting location for the Board of Selectmen, the Selectmen's chambers? Do we need a motion?
Yeah, I think it's just marking that on the agenda.
Just an agenda change. I don't think we need it.
I mean, the agenda is supposed to state the time and the location.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Are you good with that, Joe, on the meeting location?
Yep, I'm good. Absolutely.
He says in 70-degree weather.
Okay, so we'll put it on.
Come on now.
And you want to vote on allowing us to get stamps that will be used with your approval?
Sure. Do we have a motion?
I move that we authorize the interim town administrator to get signature stamps for the select board.
Second,
All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Uranium, yes.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Just FYI, but I had someone call me this week asking if we had available marijuana retail licenses. I told her, I don't believe the town has issued any, so we probably do. And I suggested she check with planning board and zoning to see as well, because I heard someone say that it had been a moratorium passed in the past, a few
Oh,
years
that
ago.
was years
was
ago,
years
yeah,
ago.
couple years ago.
The planning board has, and Veronica and I were both on the planning board for this. We have zoning, planning in place, zoning bylaws in place for it. The entity who is looking to get a license would have to come to the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator. So as far as I understand it, nobody has come to
No,
us.
this was someone just inquiring if we have licenses available.
Yep.
And I said, I believe there are.
Come to town hall and we'll talk.
Didn't we have this discussion that they have to go through all the appropriate boards before they come in front of us?
We are the first stop.
They have to start negotiating the host agreement.
Yeah.
And they have to get basically a vote that says you're generally okay with it. Then they come back with a host agreement and then they go and see all the other boards and committees. This is, I think, someone just testing the waters to see if it was available. I only pass that on just because this is the second one that's called me in a couple months.
I may be wrong, but I think we need to go back and look at this because we had that discussion probably the beginning of last year, because someone came in and, you know, they wanted to come to us and they had to go and get all the proper stuff with the planning board, everybody, because we have to prove the location, because there's only certain locations. I may be wrong, but I think if we all look at that, I think that's what we all voted for.
Joe, I helped write it and so did Veronica, and it is, the procedure is to work out a host agreement with the town officials first before they go to seek permits. That's what it is in the bylaw.
And even if, and I think it's, just because you get the host agreement doesn't mean you wind up with the license.
Yeah, and I wasn't
You
telling
have
these
to
folks
follow
that they
the
can go ahead and do it. I just said
Right.
that, you know, there probably is a license available. And I think this is someone just
ask.
doing some research.
Seeing, yeah,
And
seeing
it's- don't be surprised if we actually get a formal submission sometime down the road. Good.
Right.
That's okay.
Speaking of warrants, I have a warrant here for $2,183.58. And I have a second warrant for your signature for $30,634.
What is those for?
Miscellaneous expenses.
30,000 miscellaneous expenses?
Well, there's a collection of them, yes. I mean, normally we're running,
Oh, you mean the things that we usually sign off on?
yes.
Got it, got it.
What's normally in the black envelope is here for you to sign tonight. It's very light compared to.
It's light considering we've signed some over 200,000. I'll sign 30,000 any day.
You react to the warrants when you sign them.
I thought it was for the Board of Selectmen's office. I'm like, what did we buy for $30,000?
We haven't even gotten your stamps yet.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
Okay, that's just to remind you to hopefully sign this before the two of you leave tonight.
Okay,
And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
all right.
There's comments over here from our audience.
Question. From the Board of Water Commissioners, there was another contract that we were waiting on, that we had to hear on tonight. The IT contract with White Mountain. Did that come back from?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that.
It went to town council.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
There goes my comment about letting me know when things go to.
Nope. Chaz knew about that, but that'll since change. We're waiting on doing some work with our phones that's waiting on the contract and stuff. So I'm just, we were kind of waiting to see if you hadn't heard anything back from.
I didn't get
I haven't
anything.
gotten it.
Misty, sorry, I didn't mean to drop your name, Misty. She had sent out an email to Adam today, and I
Okay.
didn't see a response.
All right, Christine.
So
All right.
look real quick.
Will you chase that or you want me to chase that?
I can chase that.
Yeah, just so you know, we sent it up in October.
You surprised on that?
No.
Well, I think we can help you get faster turnaround going forward.
That's all we ask.
We can put that on the 18th.
Yeah, I didn't get a response from him.
All
I
right.
haven't seen anything. So,
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you. All right, so, reports from board liaison. Anything, I'm general government, nothing.
Joe, you got anything?
Anything,
Public safety? No, I don't have anything.
and elected board,
Um,
we've already heard about water.
that's one of the several things that I add. No, not to report now. I can do it later.
Announcements, communications is 5.3. I put a few things that came in the SharePoint. The payroll audit results are in there, and we got back funds on that. I'm looking through here. Did I put in the amount?
Yeah, it was like 1,500.
Yeah, so we did get that back. Then there was the ZBA decision for McNabb's was in there, so take a look at that. And the last one was the planning assistance grant for the open space and recreation plan. And there should be a kickoff for that sometime in January. So we are going to get help. I don't know the amount that we got, but it's through May of 2023 to update the plan that expired in March of 2020. So that's a good thing. That's an EEA grant.
Yeah.
Planning assistance. And as far as grants go, the MRPC will be getting they've applied for, hopefully they will get the Brownfields grant, and we should
Yes,
for
yes.
that.
Okay.
I've already been in contact with Karen and Glenn on that one.
Okay.
The other thing is that in October, we applied for the ADA vision plan.
Yep.
And so we're hoping to hear from that soon. That was another document that needs updated. We had put in for that last year and we did not get selected. So hopefully our application was stronger this year.
Nice.
So we do need people forward to be on the Commission of Disabilities for the town. And that's on one of the volunteer positions open on the website. So Commission on Disabilities, it's great to have people sign up for that. And that's all I have from that. Next meeting is January 18th at 6 p.m. We're working on that agenda now, so been adding things to that daily. And so is there a motion to review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session for next week? We'll sign them here this week.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All
And I'm not
those-
available. I'm not available, so you have to go without my signature.
Until we get a stamp, and then.
Yeah, get a stamp, Ross. You ain't got that stamp yet?
Works.
All right. Out of warrant, payroll and warrant out, bill payable warrant out of session. All in favor? Joe, how do you vote?
Joe Shank, yes.
Yes.
Veronica Kell, yes. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn meeting at 8:25.
Second.
There's second. All those in favor?
Joe Shank, yes.
Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Veronica Kell, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Great meeting, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, Joe.
All right, have a good night. Goodbye.
Everybody, for your hard work.
Thank you, Laurie.
You're welcome.